When we combine perfectionism and judgment, this leads to a form of language-based self-sabotage that I call achievement masking, which is like
Achievement masking. Okay.
yeah, which is like self-sabotage dressed up as professionalism. So you excel in silence, but hold back your voice. So you just let your actions speak for you, hoping that will be enough, and keep your voice to yourself so that you avoid the risk of imperfection.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Frustrated to Fluent. I'm your host, Devon Bruce. I'm the founder and CEO of the English Communication Academy, and we help non-native English speakers in healthcare communicate effectively with their patients, colleagues, and staff. And today I'm speaking with Kris Driskill. She's an international opera singer turned transformational coach and business consultant. Her lighthearted yet deeply intuitive approach has empowered creatives and entrepreneurs to enjoy the process of running their own businesses with ease, fun, and flow since 2007. During her time as a faculty member at Chapman University, she taught foreign language pronunciation for multiple languages, oftentimes to students to whom English was their second language. Her work first it focuses on self-sabotage, and that's backed by the evidence-based research of positive intelligence. She's also certified in business coaching, money mindset coaching, and serves as a Gene Keys guide in addition to holding certification in social emotional arts from the UCLA Arts and Healing, part of the UCLA Department of Integrative Medicine. So, Kris, thank you so much for coming on. What a
Thank you.
resume!
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here, Devon. Thank you for having me. I'm excited about this.
Me too. And I'm beyond excited to talk about this because you are an expert in self sabotage and something that I see all day, every day. Back when I was an English coach and now someone who runs my academy, is that it's not money when they feel like they need to get help. Because a lot of times, when you have your own business, people are like, oh, I can't afford it. For them, it's not money. It's never money. It's I don't have the time. Well, that may be true, but because there's so much guilt and shame and stigma of needing help with their English and the need the help for something basic, as mostly doctors who are listening, that is a form of self sabotage. And that can be really difficult to overcome. So I'm so happy that we are talking about this because I know this is going to help people.
Yeah, I'm excited to have
So,
this conversation
yes.
as well. This is something that shows up a lot with people who, and this is the same for my world. I work with people who are high performers, so they're highly
Hmm.
intelligent, they're highly talented, and this comes up a lot. That because they're smart, they expect to be able to learn something, implement it, figure it out, and have it done, kind of in one foul stroke. Because most of the things in their life go that way. So when something
Yeah.
doesn't, like language, which can be a very different experience than learning other types of knowledge, it can be very frustrating. It can be, something that creates shame or guilt around the learning process and around doing it in public, right? Because that's
Hmm.
part of the that's part of the experience is that communication with others. So it's a hot
Yeah.
topic for sure.
It is. And having said that, I want to jump right in. So, for you as an expert and you have all of this expertise backed in this, what is your definition of self sabotage? And then also, what are some common forms of it and some less common forms of it?
Yeah, and I'll speak to this as far as the forms. I'll kind of speak to that when it comes
Okay.
to language learning in particular. But backing up just to what self-sabotage is. Anytime you experience a negative emotion, shame, blame, guilt, defensiveness, upset, sadness, and I'm exempting grief from this. Please know that that's not included in this. Anytime you experience a negative emotion and you stay in that negative emotion for more than the initial experience of it is self sabotage. That's what happens when our internal thought patterns or behaviors quietly, or sometimes not so quietly, work against us. And a lot of times we don't even know it. So the things that we think we're doing in our mind, we think are natural and normal because we have adopted these patterns ever since we were children. So for many of us, this is decades of, neural pathway following that tells us,
Yeah.
this happened, so I should feel upset. And then I stay upset. Instead of this happened, I feel upset. And now I have a conscious choice to either remain upset, which would be a form of self sabotage, or to redirect my mind over to other parts of the brain that would allow me to open up into other opportunities. So that's how I would define that. As far as common forms in language learning, I would say one of the most prevalent would be not speaking up. So in order to avoid sounding imperfect or making mistakes, just not saying anything at all, over preparing at the sacrifice of expressing yourself or connecting as a form of compensating, obviously comparing your English to native speakers, or judging yourself really harshly for any language struggles like hesitation or things that you think might be easy or should be easy. And then I think some of the less obvious forms might be things like avoiding going for a promotion or for a higher leadership role that you have the skills for because it involves more public speaking or involves a more present, a higher presence, either in the
Mhm.
community or inside the company. Another one is saying I'm sorry before you speak. Another one would be feeling resentful when others don't understand what you're saying or returning judgment toward them. That's a very sneaky form of self sabotage. And then, associating language expertise with field expertise, to where we're disqualifying our expertise because we're associating it with our ability to speak about it in a way that feels competent in a different language.
I had to do this for a second for the people who are not watching. I had to touch my heart because this is touching on my heartstrings because I've heard this for so long, for so many years, and all of those things are the key issues as to why people feel stuck with their English. Because for them, it's not they need more English classes per se because they're fluent. They use it every day in healthcare, but they feel stuck, and it's those things that prevent others from seeing their brilliance. And many
Yes.
people may not be fully aware that it's self-sabotage
Yeah, that's
because
right.
it's in the background because they're busy living their lives, they're busy helping patients, they're doing research. So it's not really in the forefront. And also because it's English, it's like, "Oh, I'll get to it later." And then later ends up being 10 years.
Yeah.
So for you to just clearly say that, it's like, it's so I'm so glad that you touched on that. Now, this next question might be a bit obvious, but I would like you to go a little bit deeper. Now, how does guilt or shame or the stigma, how does that impact a person's willingness to speak up in meetings or to advocate for themselves or correct misunderstandings at work? How does that impact a person's willingness to do that?
Well, let's just be clear first about what guilt and shame are, because I think a lot of times they're exchanged for one another and they're different, right? So guilt really focuses on action or behavior, like I did something wrong. Shame focuses on identity or worth. There's something wrong with me. So we have two different sides of that can be playing with us all the time, especially when it comes with something, as personal as language learning. And it's personal because it's coming out of our bodies. It's not an action that's outside of us. Like, I missed something in an email. That's outside of us, but your voice is coming from within you. So shame and guilt are extremely prevalent when it comes to language learning, when we put the pressure on ourselves to know everything or implement it immediately, and that can be a real challenge. So guilt would be things like thinking that you need help with English at all. I mean, I've been here for years. I should have mastered this by
Mhm.
now. right? That
Mhm.
kind of, or I went to university in English. I should know this by now. Or taking time to express yourself, feeling guilty about, like, am I slowing down the meeting? Am I slowing down the patient visit? Am I slowing down team discussions? Or asking for clarification or repetition, or making mistakes, even little ones, or even
Mhm.
prioritizing their own growth. Like you said, a lot of times people say, well, I don't have time to deal with that. And it could be the guilt of saying that, okay, with everything I've got going in my life, I'm really going to take the time out to try to fix something that I feel should have already been fixed. And so that can create guilt and
Yeah.
avoidance as well. Shame might look like speaking imperfect English, like there's something wrong with me. I'm the one who's not able to do this. Being seen as less competent, being seen as the one who doesn't get it. When maybe something's said in the room, maybe it's a joke or something that someone says and you don't feel like you quite understand. Still needing support despite the fact that you're successful, right? Or even cultural or societal stigma. Now, in some cultures, asking for help, especially with something that might be interpreted as basic, like language is basic, which it's not, you
Mhm.
guys,
It's not.
right? Asking for help can be seen as a weakness or a
Mhm.
failure. And so working against that and having to kind of break through the fact that that's been taught to you can also create shame as well, especially if you feel like you need that help. So I think
Mhm.
anytime we put ourselves forward can activate our primal survival need for acceptance and approval. So basically, anytime you open your mouth and speak, you are putting yourself into that primal survival need for acceptance and approval. So if you already feel like you're misunderstood or you're afraid of being misunderstood, it can be really challenging to put yourself in that situation. So even something like someone saying your name incorrectly and you like wanting to correct them, can feel like you're
Yeah.
putting yourself in a survival type situation. So that a lot of times can cause that, holding ourselves back from speaking up, holding ourselves back from saying, actually, it's like this, or it's pronounced like this, or actually, this is what I meant, or trying to do that, advocating for ourselves. This stuff can really kind of hold us back. And
Yeah.
when you feel like speaking has the potential of you doing something quote unquote wrong, or even worse, there being something wrong with you, it's going to affect your ability to express yourself freely and to feel like you can really connect with someone.
Yeah, I didn't mean to sigh. It's just this is like I said, this is just all day, every day that we deal with. And sometimes the blocks can be so severe. And the thing that it's frustrating, and I'm just being honest, is that I see their brilliance. We see their brilliance. Everyone can see their brilliance, but it does not matter because of what's going on in here or what's going on in their nervous system.
Yeah.
And that's what makes people feel stuck a lot of the time. Now, I know that you've talked about guilt and shame, but what about perfectionism? How does that
Ooh,
play into self sabotage?
ooh, this is a big one, especially in an industry like healthcare, where, like I said, being intelligent, being smart, being talented is kind of like step zero. You're already that. Well,
Yeah.
that comes with it. So because you're already a high performer, you're probably already a high achiever. If you are a hyper achiever, which oftentimes comes into this industry as well and can be, kind of like a sneaky form of self-sabotage, perfectionism discounts anything you've communicated that's not perfect. So the other 60, 70, 80, even 90% of what you've done well, you can't even see it. So
Wow.
it keeps you thinking that you're not improving or you're not effective, even when you are, because the focus always goes to that one little thing you did wrong, that one little phrase that you hesitated on, that one word that you mixed up for another one. And it focuses on that and it dwells on it. So it's almost impossible to see that 98% of what you said was perfectly fine. The voice, and I mentioned this as well, the voice is one of the most personal things about us. So when people criticize and judge our voice, it can be very painful. No one wants to experience that. So the fear of judgment can be really loud when your identity feels like it's on the line, especially in something like a high stakes role like medicine. And then,
Mhm.
when we combine those two things, when we combine perfectionism and judgment, this leads to a form of language based self sabotage that I call achievement masking, which is like,
Achievement masking. Okay.
yeah, which is like self sabotage dressed up as professionalism. So you excel in silence, but hold back your voice. So you just let your actions speak for you, hoping that will be enough, and keep your voice to yourself so that you avoid the risk of imperfection.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I've recently wrote some articles on LinkedIn about how to approach the job market because with a lot of the layoffs that are going on, a lot of people are feeling that they don't have a chance of getting employed because they're non-native English speakers, they might be immigrants, and so I've been letting them know that your brilliance and your actions are not enough. You need to be seen, you need to be visible, you need to put yourself out there in a whole new way now. Like gone are the days that you could just go on Indeed and just hope on a wing and a prayer. Like
Yeah.
that's done. And so I'm really glad that you brought that up because you have to put yourself out there now. And that requires you to be confident in your speaking. So, having said that, what are some mindset shifts or small changes that can help them feel more confident, especially during high pressure moments?
Yeah, I think what you just said is so important as well, to realize that, you have a brilliant mind and it's your creativity and your innovation that really brings you forth, either as a leader or as a candidate for a job or anything else. It's not what you wrote down on paper, because on paper, many of us are the same. There's not a lot that stands out. It's very easy to have an impressive piece of paper. But when you start speaking with a person, when you start hearing the way their mind works, when you start seeing the kindness and care that they bring with them, that energy gets transferred only through your voice and only through you giving yourself the opportunity to put that forward. So I would say, mindset wise, start to see people as advocates rather than judges.
That's a good
Not
one.
not always, but for the most part, it's true. Most people want to see you succeed. Most people admire others who have the courage to make mistakes to improve. Most people are willing to help. So
Mhm.
I think it's important for us to make sure that we don't set up this it's us versus them paradigm. This is a big thing going on, in the world so often, is that there's an us versus them mentality, and it never helps. Divisiveness never helps.
Right.
So if we stop seeing it as me against them, they're against me, they're out to judge me, and we start seeing them as people who want to see me rise, just as I wish to see others rise, then a lot of
Mhm.
times we end up getting a lot more support than we thought in the first place.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, going a little bit deeper into that, now, what can professionals do when they notice that they're holding themselves back? Like they're aware of it now. They're like, okay, I think I may be doing some self sabotaging, but they don't really know how to break that. So, what can professionals do when they notice that they're holding themselves back, even though they know they're capable of doing much more?
Sure. Well, I would say, work on the art of self-command. This is the work that I do as a coach, and it's a lot of, I'm sure, what you share in your work as well, Devin. If you're holding yourself back, then you are experiencing self-sabotage. So, learning how to consciously command your mind to redirect toward things like empathy, compassion, exploration, innovation, navigation, and activation, can help you to interrupt that pattern. There's a scientifically proven way to do this, but you got to practice. It doesn't take a long amount of time. It just takes commitment and consistency. Just like going to the gym
Hmm.
and picking up a weight and lifting a weight. You can't do it once. Language learning is the same, right? You can't learn some vocabulary and take a couple lessons and then feel like you got it. You got to keep going back. You got to keep going back. You got to keep going back. And you start with where you're at, and then you go from there, and it will build on itself. So the art of self-command is huge, because it can completely shift the way that we address the learning process and giving ourselves the opportunity to as well. I would also say, be kind to yourself. Instead of
Yeah.
dismissing this part of yourself that's afraid of being wrong or imperfect, or instead of being harsh toward yourself, take a moment to listen. If we came across a child and that child said, "I'm afraid, I don't feel safe right now," we would not look at that child and say, "Well, It's a tough world out there, kid. Get over it.
Mm-hmm.
You would never do that.
Yeah,
And yet we
it's
do
true.
that to ourselves all the time. So, when a child says, I'm so afraid, what do? We say, come here, honey, tell me what's going on. And we
Mm-hmm.
listen. Even if we don't think the fear is warranted, we listen and we validate what they're experiencing. Kindness toward ourselves, that compassion toward ourselves is a huge part of releasing the self-sabotage and the stigma around it being uncomfortable, it being awkward, it feeling scary, that's completely okay. I would also say
I
that,
love it.
participate and practice in safe communities. Get into work like Devon's doing to where, you're already surrounded by advocates, who can help you feel
Mm-hmm.
comfortable, where just being present is the goal. You're not there to perform. You're not there to be perfect. You're there to try things out. That can help build a lot of confidence and shifting. And lastly, I would say, you know what? Give yourself some credit. Stepping into a leadership position outside of your own language, particularly one that addresses something as important as health, that takes immense heart and courage, and you're already
Mm-hmm.
doing it.
Yes, amen to that. That is literally why I love helping the helpers for that part right there. Now, just to finalize this, if someone listening, they're feeling stuck right now, they know they're fluent, but they're just constantly second guessing themselves, and they might have that seed being planted, like, they are doing some self-sabotaging. What's your direct message to them?
Number one, I would say remember what your job is. No one says, this is my doctor. She speaks perfect English and is easy to understand. No, they say, this is my doctor. She saved my life. Right? Your job is to connect and to serve and to help. Your job is not to have perfect English. Just remember your job. Remember why you're there in the first place. Sharing your
So glad you said
voice.
that.
Yeah, sharing your voice is so much more important than making a mistake. Mistakes are just data. Go ahead and make them. You remember, most people want you to succeed. So ask for backup when you need it, and you don't need to, this is so important for the person. You don't need to erase your accent or apologize for who you are ever. I think the more we embrace what makes us uniquely who we are, the more we allow not only ourselves to appreciate that, but others to appreciate that. And if we're trying to hide it, if we're trying to erase it, if we're trying to pretend like it's not who we are, we're not actually presenting ourselves as a whole version of ourselves. And people don't know what's going on, but they can feel that. And it creates mistrust. So
So true.
allowing yourself to be yourself, hesitancy and wrong words and taking time and mistakes and all is so much more genuine, and it's so much more easy to connect with others when we do that. And I
Mm.
also just say, use the gift of lightness. It's okay to pause. It's okay to say you're not sure if that's the right word and ask for confirmation. It's okay to enjoy the process of being a person who is using a second or third or even fourth language. You are capable and competent, and you are worthy simply because you exist. So let's just have fun with the rest.
Love it. Oh, what a great way to end this amazing conversation. Oh, this was fantastic. So Kris, where can people find you online?
Sure, you can find me over on my website. It's krisdriskill.com. It's kind of odd spelling. It's all with K's. So I'm sure they'll be in Devon's show notes. So take a look for
Mm-hmm.
that. I'm also over at LinkedIn, my full name, Christina Driskill. You can find me over there. And please say hello. If you heard this episode with Devon, I would love to connect with you. I always love hearing how people enjoyed these kinds of conversations and what kinds of ahas it brought. And I love reading those notes on Devon's podcast as well. So please reach out and please connect with us.
Thank you. And her links are in the description box below. And if you are in healthcare and you are sick and tired of doing your own self sabotage and you are looking for support, we do have a free academy available for you. It's available for anyone in healthcare, and it's a safe space. So please come and join us for free. The link for that is in the description box below. So thank you very much for tuning in. I always appreciate it. Kris, thank you so much for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. And thank you very much. And I'll see you next time. Take care.